The 4-4-2. The 4-4-2 dominated English football for 2 decades. Then, almost overnight, nobody could win with it. What changed? Nothing about the formation, everything about the game around it. This is how football's most successful system went extinct. If you grew up watching Premier League football in the 90s and early 2000s, every team sheet looked identical. 4 defenders, 4 midfielders, 2 strikers. Done. The 4-4-2 wasn't just a formation, it was the default setting of football for nearly 2 decades. Manchester United won 13 Premier League titles. 11 of them came using a 4-4-2. Between 1993 and 2009, Ferguson's United dominated England with the same system everyone else was using. They just did it better. Manchester United won the treble with it in 1999. Cole and York terrorising defences, Beckham and Giggs stretching the pitch, Keane and Scholes controlling everything in between. Arsenal's Invincibles used it. Chelsea under Mourinho adapted it. It was the system. The 4-4-2 worked because of balance. Defensively, 2 compact banks of 4 made you almost impossible to break down. Organised, disciplined, everyone knew their job. Attacking was about partnerships. Strikers who understood each other instinctively, one dropping deep while the other attacked space. Width came from your wingers. Control came from your 2 central midfielders. Then, Barcelona's philosophy caught up with English football. Cruyff planted the seeds in the 90s, Rijkaard refined it, but Guardiola's Barcelona in 2008 to 2009 proved the 4-4-2 was dead. And the funeral? The 2009 Champions League final in Rome. Ferguson saw it coming. He'd already started adapting, shifting to 4-5-1 in Europe, especially against elite opposition. The problem? He walked into a team that had perfected what he was trying to learn. United lined up in a modified 4-5-1. Barcelona didn't care. Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets. 3 midfielders who passed United into exhaustion. 2-0. Game over. System over. Now, it's practically extinct at the top level. Simeone occasionally uses it at Atletico when he wants pure defensive solidity. Sean Dyche swore to it when managing Burnley, but even he had to give in, adopting to a 4-5-1 with Everton, with little luck. The 4-4-2 died because football moved from partnerships to systems, from balance to superiority. The game became about outnumbering opponents in key areas. 2 strikers became a luxury. 2 central midfielders became a death sentence. And this is where football started abandoning everything traditional. Number 7 on this list, though? Whether that one's actually dead is going to split opinions hard. The kick and rush tactic. Let's be clear, this wasn't a tactic. It was barely even a philosophy. It was chaos with a heartbeat and passion. Get the ball, launch it forward, sprint after it like your mortgage depends on it. Win the second ball. Repeat until the opposition breaks. That's it. No intricate passing patterns, no tactical adjustments, just raw, unfiltered aggression. Wimbledon's Crazy Gang took this approach from the 4th Division to winning the FA Cup in 1988, beating Liverpool, the best team in Europe, through sheer intimidation and relentless energy. They didn't care about technique, they cared about winning every physical battle, every header, every second ball. Football as trench warfare. It worked because it was anti-tactical. Opponents couldn't prepare for it because there was nothing to prepare for. You can't study chaos on video. You either matched their intensity or got overwhelmed. So why did it disappear? Because football became technical. European clubs brought sophistication that exposed kick and rush as what it was. Hope disguised as strategy. Barcelona didn't need to outrun you. They'd pass circles around you until you were dizzy. Modern pressing traps now punish long balls brutally. Defenders step up, win possession high, and suddenly you're defending a counterattack. Bielsa's Leeds had traces of its DNA between 2018 and 2020. Vertical, relentless, overwhelming. But even that was to some degree structured chaos. Pure kick and rush? Analytics buried it. The tactic no longer belonged when football evolved into a science experiment. Chaos doesn't survive spreadsheets. The 4-3-2-1. In the early 2000s, Ancelotti had a problem. Milan had one world-class striker in Shevchenko, but not the elite strike partnership their system demanded. His solution? Get experimental. The 4-3-2-1, the Christmas tree. Picture the team sheet. 4 defenders at the base, 3 midfielders as the trunk, 2 attacking midfielders branching out, 1 striker as the star on top. When the graphics appeared on screen between 2003 and 2005, it literally looked like a Christmas tree. The logic was simple. If we can't have 2 elite strikers, let's dominate with 5 midfielders instead. Kaká and Rui Costa operated as twin playmakers behind Shevchenko, creating through impossibly tight spaces, while Gattuso, Pirlo and Ambrosini controlled everything behind them. For stretches in Serie A, Milan could suffocate teams through the middle. Patient build-up, sudden explosions of creativity, defensive compression that made you earn every inch. But teams figured it out quickly. Elite wingers had acres of space. Why fight through 8 central players when there's an ocean of room on the flanks? Fullbacks couldn't defend and attack simultaneously against genuine pace. High-energy teams would stretch the pitch horizontally and watch the formation collapse under the width. Too rigid, too predictable, too easy to exploit. Ancelotti abandoned the experiment. If the Christmas tree was too narrow, maybe the answer was balance, keeping central dominance but adding a second striker back. So he revived something older, something that had worked before. The diamond midfield. Here's what nobody tells you about the diamond. When it worked, it was the most beautiful thing in football. 1 defensive midfielder anchoring everything, 2 shuttlers on either side, an attacking midfielder at the tip with freedom to create, 2 strikers up top combining instinctively. On paper, it's perfect symmetry, control, creativity, goals. Ancelotti returned to the 4-1-2-1-2 diamond around 2004 to 2005, and it became Milan's identity. Pirlo as the deep-lying playmaker at the base, Gattuso and Seedorf as tireless shuttlers, Kaká at the tip, and Shevchenko partnered with Inzaghi or Crespo up front. In 2005, they took it to Istanbul for the Champions League final against Liverpool. 3-0 up at half-time. Shevchenko and Crespo combining perfectly, Kaká pulling strings, the diamond controlling everything. Then Liverpool switched to 3 at the back, flooded the midfield, and Milan's central dominance evaporated. 3-3, penalties, Milan lost. But Ancelotti believed. 2 years later, Athens 2007, same opponent, same formation. This time, Milan won 2-1. Inzaghi scoring twice. The diamond delivered redemption. When it clicked, you dominated games through the middle, overloading central areas, creating through tight spaces, letting your fullbacks provide width. The problem? It assumed opponents would also play narrow. They didn't. Teams with genuinely fast wingers destroyed the diamond. Your fullbacks became isolated prisoners on their flanks, defending 2 versus 1 situations repeatedly while the rest of your team was central. One good cross and your entire structure collapses. Bayern and Real Madrid would stretch the pitch, drag those fullbacks out and create chances effortlessly. Pressing exposed it worse. If you pressed the base of the diamond, that single defensive midfielder, the whole system crumbled. No pivot, no control, game over. The diamond required specialists. A generational number 10, 2 strikers with telepathic understanding, superhuman fullbacks, tireless central midfielders who never stopped running. Football moved away from specialists toward versatile, adaptable systems. When Shevchenko left for Chelsea in 2006, the diamond became even harder to sustain. Ancelotti had experimented with going narrower years earlier, the Christmas tree, and that failed. Now, without elite strikers, even the diamond couldn't survive. Milan tried 2 solutions to the same problem: central dominance in a game moving toward width. One formation was too narrow. The other required impossible personnel. Both died because modern football became about stretching space everywhere at once, not compressing it in the middle. The sweeper. The door bolt, Italian football's gift to defensive mastery, and the system that made the beautiful game ugly. Picture Inter Milan in the 1960s under Helenio Herrera. Opponents would attack and attack and attack, and hit a wall. Why? Because behind that wall of man markers sat the sweeper, the libero, reading the game like a chess master, sweeping up danger, launching counters with one surgical pass. Franz Beckenbauer made the role elegant in Germany, gliding out from defense like he owned a different dimension of football. But Italy? Italy made it feared. Catenaccio wasn't just defensive, it was suffocation turned into art. Lock the game down at 1-0, frustrate opponents into rage-fueled mistakes, then punish them on the counter with clinical brutality. Inter won back-to-back European Cups in 1964 and 1965 with it. It also got called anti-football by everyone who couldn't break it. The sweeper's job was deceptively simple. Stay free, cover your teammates' mistakes, erase danger before it develops. Meanwhile, man markers tracked opponents like bloodhounds. Physical, relentless, everywhere. Defensively, impenetrable fortress. Attacking, maybe one or two forwards. That's it. Control through psychological warfare in your own half. For 2 decades, variations of this system dominated Italian football. Every top club had their libero, their man markers, their 1-0 mentality. So why did it vanish? Arrigo Sacchi murdered it. His late 80s Milan didn't just defend, they hunted in packs, pressed high, deployed the offside trap like a weapon. Suddenly, Catenaccio looked prehistoric. Sitting deep meant surrendering space, and Sacchi's Milan would strangle you in it. When modern attackers started position swapping constantly, man markers got dragged into chaos, leaving canyons of space behind them. The final twist? Guardiola resurrected the sweeper. He just gave him gloves. Ederson plays as a libero with his feet, covering behind suicidal high lines, distributing like a deep-lying playmaker. Catenaccio didn't die. The sweeper just evolved into a goalkeeper. The long ball tradition. This wasn't kick and rush. Don't confuse the two. Long ball football was structured, disciplined, strategic. It was kick and rush's older brother who went to university, got a coaching badge, and actually understood physics. Teams like Bolton under Sam Allardyce, Stoke under Tony Pulis, Norway under Egil Drillo Olsen. They didn't just hoof it randomly, hoping for magic. They aimed diagonal balls toward a target man, usually 6 feet 3 inches, usually built like a brick wall, who'd win the header, flick it on, and aggressive midfielders would swarm the second ball like starving piranhas. Rory Delap's throw-ins at Stoke weren't comedy, they were weaponized set pieces, turning a throw-in into a corner kick through pure biomechanics. The big boys, like Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester United, were all terrified of a throw-in. At international level, it reached its peak with Greece 2004. Otto Rehhagel turned no-hopers into European champions using rigid defensive shape and direct balls to Angelos Charisteas. They beat Portugal twice, France, and the Czech Republic, all through organized chaos and refusing to play pretty. It was beautiful in its defiance. Marouane Fellaini became the modern era's final poster boy. David Moyes at Everton, then Manchester United, exploited his chest control and aerial dominance. When desperate, just launch it to Fellaini's afro. It worked embarrassingly often. But then 3 things killed it simultaneously. 1. Analytics proved long balls lose possession 50 to 60% of the time, statistically suicidal. 2. Modern centre-backs became athletic freaks. Van Dijk, Saliba, Ruben Dias, 6 feet 4 inches, rapid, comfortable on the ball. They started winning those aerial duels while also playing out from the back. 3. Goalkeepers evolved into sweepers. Ederson, Alisson, Neuer. They dominate their boxes, claim crosses aggressively, and sweep behind high lines. Then add modern pressing traps into the equation. Launch a long ball against Liverpool's or Arsenal's press and watch what happens. They win the header, recycle possession instantly, and now they're attacking while your midfielders are still jogging back into position. And here's the damning evidence. Look at the Premier League today. Not a single elite team relies on the original out-and-out target man. Even relegation battling sides prefer technical footballers. Modern managers are principled to the point of stubbornness. Arteta, Guardiola, Klopp, Postecoglou. They'd rather lose playing their way than abandon their identity for short-term pragmatism. They tweak details, not entire systems. The era of managers completely abandoning possession football to launch balls at a giant, dead. Long balls still exist in transition, quick switches from defense to attack, but as a full-time system, extinct. Football chose control over chaos. Statistically, philosophically, aesthetically, it was the right choice. But part of the game's soul died with it. Pure man-to-man marking. Is pure man-to-man marking extinct? The answer depends on which type you're talking about, because there are two completely different things here. For decades, this was how football worked everywhere. Your centre-back marked their striker. Your right-back followed their left winger. Everywhere. 1 versus 1. Personal. Tribal. That's team-wide man marking. All 11 players with specific assignments. Serie A in the 80s and 90s was built on it. Defensive careers were defined by individual battles. Then Arrigo Sacchi arrived with a revolutionary idea. What if we marked spaces instead of players? His Milan destroyed teams using rigid man marking because attackers would interchange positions constantly, dragging markers out of shape like puppets on strings. Sacchi's side pressed as a compact unit, zonal, intelligent, suffocating. Cruyff's total football accelerated the death. Constant rotations turned man markers into confused, exhausted shadows. The final nail? Modern goalkeeper distribution. When Ederson has the ball at his feet, who presses him? If your striker goes, it's suddenly 10 versus 9 outfield, and City exploit the gap instantly. If nobody goes, he picks passes freely. Someone's always free. Some teams still try team-wide man marking, and it exposes exactly why it's dead. Marcelo Bielsa's Leeds used man-oriented pressing that bordered on suicidal, following players everywhere, creating end-to-end chaos where they'd beat City one week, then concede 6 the next. Elite teams exploited it ruthlessly. Entertaining? Yes. Sustainable? The system eventually collapsed. Man United under Ten Hag in 2023 to 2024 tried man-marking triggers in big games. Each player assigned an opponent. The result? They became one of the most open teams in Premier League history. Teams would rotate positions, United's structure would collapse, and opponents would waltz through midfield. Arsenal put 4 past them, Liverpool put 7. Defensive catastrophe. Team-wide man-marking across all 11 players? That's extinct. But here's where it gets interesting. There's a second type of man-marking, and it's still very much alive. The designated destroyer. Sacrificing one player to shadow the opponent's best player for 90 minutes. Ji-sung Park was Sir Alex Ferguson's secret weapon. Need to stop Pirlo? Send Park. Neutralize Xavi? Park's your man. He'd follow them everywhere, pressing, harassing, disrupting, essentially removing himself and the opposition's playmaker from the game. Claude Makelele perfected this at Chelsea, sitting deep, tracking the number 10, breaking up attacks with surgical precision. Ander Herrera on Hazard under Mourinho, deployed as Hazard's personal shadow, making his life miserable. Herrera even said he'd follow him to the toilet if Mourinho wanted. Even Milner on Messi for Liverpool in 2019, a 33-year-old tasked with shadowing the best player on the planet. It sounds insane, but it worked. This type of man-marking still exists today. It happens in almost every big game. Teams routinely assign defensive mids to track opposition playmakers for 10 to 15-minute phases, switching between zonal and man-marking depending on game state. It's especially alive in 2 places. Set pieces, where about half of Premier League teams still use hybrid man-marking on corners, and international football, where teams lack time to drill complex zonal systems and default to simpler man-marking assignments. But as a primary system, it's becoming rarer. Why? Because elite teams don't rely on one playmaker anymore. Man-mark Bernardo Silva and Foden creates. Shadow Ødegaard and Rice dictates. Elite teams have 4 to 5 creators, so sacrificing someone to mark one player is increasingly pointless. Guardiola killed the full-time designated destroyer by distributing creativity across the team. Today's defending is hybrid. Zonal triggers with man-oriented moments. You mark spaces until specific triggers, then jump to a player for 5 to 6 seconds before dropping back. Liverpool under Klopp mastered this. Zonal compactness until danger, then aggressive man pressure, then back to shape. Why the shift? Because modern football is played by teams who rotate positions every 30 seconds. Attackers aren't static targets anymore. They're fluid, interchanging, designed to break man-marking systems. Football never stops evolving. Today's revolutionary tactic becomes tomorrow's relic. In 10 years, someone might be making a video about why inverted fullbacks died out. So here's the question. Did we miss anything? Are any of these tactics still alive and breathing better than ever? Drop your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more deep dives on the beautiful game.